Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta on this beautiful fall, crisp morning. Here, we return once again to create a beloved community, acting together with compassion, reason, and respect, empowering us to promote a just society. We've been doing land acknowledgements recently, yet today, as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, it's extra important to name that here in the CSRA, we reside on the lands of the Westo people, the Savannah Shawnees, and the Yuki peoples of the Muskogee Confederacy. My name is Reverend Nic Filzen. I have he, him pronouns. I'm happy to have created this service with worship host Chris Palmer, musician Robin Macy, who brought a little extra today. Thank you for that. And some help from Jezebella Knott and Chris Garcia. And all of you, really, we all are creating this holy moment together. I'm looking around, and there might be a few visitors with us here this morning, and if you are a visitor, we'll know you by your orange name tag. If you are so inclined to stay afterwards for a little fellowship time in the common room, there's some coffee, and we usually have some cookies back there as well. If you would also please fill out a blue card in a seat pocket in front of you and leave that with a greeter as you leave today, that will allow us to start staying in good touch with you and vice versa. Because we are generally using our personal devices now for the order of service, they're necessarily going to be on for many of us. And would you please take a moment to ensure they're in worship mode? And whether you're here for the first time or the 1000th, I sincerely hope you get what you need today. We have a few events coming up that are important to share that are community building, community enriching. First, thank you to everyone who was able to come and help with our campus cleanup yesterday, especially Richard Dillenbeck, who is so great about managing and kind of organizing that kind of thing. So a lot of work was done. You could probably see all the trees that have been given a haircut. So we're very, very fortunate to have so many people who are willing to pitch in here. On October 13th at 5:15 p.m., speaking of pitching in, but for the Beyond the Walls bit of what we do here, the social justice team is inviting folks to write some postcards and mail them out to Georgia voters. We'll be in room 1-2 in the family ministry wing. I hope that you can come and help us promote democracy in this all-important state in the national political arena. Next Sunday at about 12:30, the membership team is inviting anybody who is new-ish here and who might be interested in becoming a member to a UU 101 discussion in my office. If you're worried about timing, we expect it to only be about 30 minutes or so you can get on with your day soon after. And kids are more than welcome if you're worried about that. We're interested in having whole families be a part of our community. Jazz concerts are returning to UUCA. Beginning with a jazz trio of singer Kat Galen, guitarist Kyle Bryant, and Travis Shaw on upright bass, who you may know. He's been here several times. This will be on October 28th at 7:30 p.m., our first renewed series here. Tickets will be $20 or $10 for students and or military. You can register now along with the 10 people who have already registered through the corresponding event on Realm or by following tinyurl.com/UUCA Jazz 1028. But I think most of us are on Realm here, so that's probably the easiest way for you to do that. Otherwise, come and talk with me. We're happy to have you there. We have 100 seats available, so with 10 going in the first 2 days we've had it out, you better get your seat fast. Now, there's more about how you can help out financially or as a volunteer in the recent e-announcement or the October newsletter. And as with Ecstatic Dance, which we started last week too, with 5 brand new people to the church coming, 13 people overall, great event. It would be fantastic if you shared this and future events on Facebook and or with your friends to ensure a great crowd. And one more personal invitation from Janaea and I on October 30th around 6:30-ish when the sun's about to go down, Halloween Eve. My family is holding an intergenerational Halloween movie night and chili cook-off in which everyone wins. There's no like prizes or anything. It's just everyone wins with good chili. Look for a flyer in Realm or around the building. I put one up this morning that includes a link to a ranked choice vote for which movies we'll watch. And now Board Secretary Pat Lynch-Hayes has one more important announcement to share.
Good morning. I'm following up with what might be the most important announcement of all. All of our members are invited to a special congregational meeting on November the 6th at 12:30 to vote to call Reverend Nic Filzen as our settled minister. Our bylaws require that for a decision this important, that we need a 50% membership quorum rather than the usual 25%. Then, once we have that quorum established, there will be a secret ballot vote that must give a 90% approval rate. So this means 51 members at this point. If you know you just cannot be here, we will have proxy forms available, and there will be information about that coming out soon. If you are present on Zoom, you will be part of the quorum. And I'm just encouraging you all to participate in whatever way you can, but let's have this important meeting be a landmark for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. The text with which we'll be in conversation today is a set of poems by former Poet Laureate of the United States, Joy Harjo, the first Indigenous American to ever hold that post. The poem comes in 6 parts, which will be kind of spread throughout the service. Some of the parts feature some incredible and difficult truth-telling. Others will lift your spirit. This work is a gift from Miss Harjo, and it is a privilege for us to engage with it today, this weekend of Indigenous Peoples Day. If you'd like to follow along with the poetry as Chris recites it and as Jezebel and Chris help on one of the pieces, there is a link at the top of the second page of your digital order of service, and which you can then find later on if you'd like to go back and revisit it later. May we honor the spirit of love and courage and power that Joy Harjo and all Indigenous people model for us and have modeled for us for centuries. And may we be a part of the healing and reparations necessary for all of us.
Set conflict resolution ground rules. Recognize whose lands these are on which we stand. Ask the deer, turtle, and crane. Make sure the spirits of these lands are respected and treated with goodwill. The land is a being who remembers everything. You have to answer to your children and their children and theirs. The red shimmer of remembering will compel you up the night to walk the perimeter of truth for understanding. As I brushed my hair over the hotel sink to get ready, I heard, By listening, we will understand who we are in this holy realm of words. Do not parade pleased with yourself. You must speak in the language of justice.
Please join us in singing our opening hymn, the African American hymn, There Is More Love Somewhere.
Sorrows. And if you'll come around and say your joy and sorrow, drop a stone, and then, is it on? Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then go down. So our first stone I'm going to drop in is for all those who cannot be present with us. And our second stone will be for the victims of the hurricane, Ian. And then the third stone is for the 40 people who were killed in Thailand by a shooter. And the next stone I'm going to drop in is for the war in Ukraine. And the third one is for all of the suffering that was caused by this war and the inflation.
They put in the translation for when the indigenous language was being sung was that we are still here. And I think one thing that's easy to forget is even though there has been a lot of harm done to First Nations people all around this country and the world, is that they still exist. And so they're both harmed and still have tremendous power. Do you, either of you, have any questions or comments about the video? Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the video? Okay. Well, with that, we'll sing these folks, whoever these people are, out to their faith formation. If you don't know, they're my daughters. May joy surround you as you go. May you grow. The love is with you always as you go, as you go. Use effective communication skills that display and enhance mutual trust and respect.
If you sign this paper, we will become brothers. We will no longer fight. We will give you this land and these waters for as long as the grass shall grow and the rivers run.
The lands and waters they gave us did not belong to them to give. Under false pretenses, we signed. After drugging by drink, we signed with the mass of gunpowder pointed at us. We signed with a flotilla of warships at our shores. We signed. We are still signing. We have found no peace in this act of signing.
A casino was raised up over the gravesite of our ancestors. Our own distant cousins pulled up the bones of our grandparents and parents and grandchildren from their last sleeping place. They had forgotten how to be human beings. Restless winds emerged from the earth when the graves were open and the winds went looking for justice.
If you raise this white flag of peace, we will honor it.
At Sand Creek, several hundred women, children, and men were slaughtered in an unspeakable massacre after a white flag was raised. The American soldiers trampled the white flag in the blood of the peacemakers.
There is a suicide epidemic among Native children. It is triple the rate of the rest of America. It feels like wartime, said a child welfare worker in South Dakota.
If you send your children to our schools, we will train them to get along in this changing world. We will educate them.
We had no choice. They took away our children. Some ran and froze to death. If they were found, they were dragged back to the school and punished. They cut their hair, took away their language, until they became as strangers to themselves, even as they became strangers to us.
If you sign this paper, we will become brothers. We will no longer fight. We will give you this land and these waters in exchange for as long as the grass shall grow and the rivers run.
Put your hand on this Bible, this blade, this chain, this blade, this pen, this oil derrick, this gun, and you will gain trust and respect with us. Now we can speak as one.
We say, put down your papers, your tools of coercion, your false promises, your posture of superiority, and sit with us before the fire. We will share food, songs, stories. We will gather beneath starlight and dance and rise together at sunrise.
The sun rose over the Potomac this morning, over the city surrounding the White House. It blazed scarlet, a fire opening truth. White House, or Chugahuta, means the house of the peacekeeper, the keepers of justice. We have crossed this river to speak to the white leader for peace many times. These settlers first arrived in our territory and made this their place of governance. These streets are our old trails, curved to fit around trees.
Audre Lorde says, Only one thing is more frightening than speaking your truth, and that is not speaking it. And that pain that might be caused by not telling your truth is not merely pain that you inflict upon yourself. You can also inflict that on those with whom you're in relationship. Because if there isn't enough truth within dialogue, there's no way there's going to be mutual respect. And yet to speak truth does require a tremendous amount of courage, a tremendous amount of vulnerability, which in many ways is courage, but we'll talk more about vulnerability in a few months. Now, there's some truly raw truth-telling happening here by Joy Harjo, channeled through our three speakers. She speaks in the voices of the white colonizer, the white oppressor, also speaking in the voice of understandably angry Indigenous people, yet also speaking in the voice of Indigenous folks who are prepared to, once again, boldly advance along the path of courage, once again into the fray of dialogue dominated by the oppressor. And when the dominating entity with whom you're in conflict, this time the United States government, proves unfaithful over and over again, proving that bad faith negotiations is the status quo, returning to dialogue once again, one more time, repeatedly, is radically, audaciously bold. There's a tremendous amount of trust, courageous trust that one must bring into a conversation about one's own existence at stake. It's risky to tell the truth. It's riskier not to. I invite you to ponder the question of when you've risked telling the truth in your life in service of courageous love, in the language of justice, as Harjo says, as we enter a few moments of silence. Blessed be.
This church is built upon the lands that belong to the Indigenous people. They took care of the land and the waters that surround it. We must respect this land and this church. It is our turn, but we can't do that without your generous support and financial contributions. Will the ushers please come forward? Thank you for your generosity. Give, excuse me, give constructive feedback. We speak together with this trade language of English. This trade language enables us to speak across many language barriers. These languages have given us the poets: Ortez, Silko, Mama Day, Alexi, Diaz, Bird, Woody, Kane, Bitsu, Long Soldier, White, Erdich, Tapahanso, Howe, Lewis, Brings Plenty, Oakpick, Hill, Wood, Melissa, Cisneros, Trask, Hogan, Dunn, Welch, Gold. The 1957 Chevy is unbeatable in style. My broken down, one-eyed Ford will have to do. It holds everyone: grandma and grandpa, aunties and uncles, the children and the babies, and all my boyfriends. That's what she said anyway, as she drove off with a 49 with all of us in that chimneying wreck. This would be no place to be without blues, jazz. Thank you, Muto, to the Africans, the Europeans sitting in, especially Adolf Sax with his saxophones. Don't forget that at the center is the Muskogee ceremonial circles. We know how to swing. We keep the heartbeat of the earth in our stomp dance feet. You might try dancing theory with a bustle or a jingle dress or turtles strapped around your legs. You might try wearing colonization like a heavy gold chain around a pimp's neck.
I had a little bit of trouble wrestling with this particular poem of the set. Everything else seemed a little more clear to me. This one I had to work with a little bit, dig into. And I think perhaps there may be some specific meaning that I just don't have the intellectual capacity to quite get, maybe. And the beautiful thing with poetry, like any other art, visual or oral in this case, the beautiful thing with poetry is that there is perhaps an intended meaning, and the overall impression on the beneficiary of the art may be paramount. The poetry's meaning is created in the relationship with the person interacting with this art as it's done, as it's been created, the author. Meaning blooms in that relationship. In that way, wrestling with poetry, any poetry really, but certainly this one, has a direct relationship with our fourth principle. Poetry gives us such a great opportunity for us to have a responsible, aka relational, search for truth and meaning. I think that responsible bit does guide us to be careful about colonizing someone else's work, especially when that work is about colonization. Especially when the work is created by somebody from a group of people whose ancestors and lives have been decimated by colonization for centuries. And so I want to be careful about taking too much of my own meaning and not giving the requisite respect to the author. And yet what ultimately allowed me to feel the overallness of this particular poem, at least from my perspective, is wondering if perhaps the constructive feedback at the heading of this particular poem is being given directly to me, the reader, the beneficiary of the art. I often try to get to the minute microcosm idea of each thing within a thing. And that's fine. There's really great value to that. And yet, it is a compulsion. Is that compulsion a symptom of colonization's impact on me? Is there another way to be? Perhaps it is an overall impression that is the goal. That would be something that's relatively foreign to me in the dominant white hegemonic culture through which I've developed as a human. And in this last sentence, Harjo says, you might try wearing colonization like a heavy gold chain around a pimp's neck. The imagery of a gaudy, performative power chain around my neck immediately makes me aware that the weight of colonization was already there. She's just asking me to notice it. Maybe that's the constructive feedback she's given to me as the reader. I'm consumed by paying too much attention to the microcosm of the thing and not the wholeness of the thing, the integration of the thing within nature, the feeling of the thing. Why can't it be both, microcosm and macrocosm, big and small, in relationship? Along with the imagery that she shares throughout this piece comes an abstract concreteness. It's the microcosm and the macrocosm at play with one another. Her story of her going to California with her family in her 57 Chevy, that'll do. Add such realness to this wholeness. By adding tremendous layers and complexity to her own life. By sharing her story, she does the same for my whole life, to our whole lives, to our holy lives as holy beings, the title of the poem. How might that awareness impact how we even start to think about conflict that we engage? How might the courage to look at a bigger picture open us up to a more radical love? Perhaps art is the answer.
Reduce defensiveness and break the defensiveness chain. I could hear the light beings as I entered every cell. Every cell is a house of God, of the God of light, they said. I could hear the spirits who love us stomp dancing. They were dancing as if they were here, and then another level of here, and then another, until the whole earth and sky was dancing. We are dancing, they said. There is no there. There was no I or you. There we were as if we were the music. You cannot legislate music to lockstep. No, can you legislate the spirit of the music to stop at political boundaries, or poetry, or art, or anything that is of value or matters in this world or the next worlds. It's about getting to know each other. We will wind up back at the blues, standing at the edge of the flattened fifth, about to jump into a fierce understanding together.
What if we imagined ourselves as the music, the art, the jazz, the blues, the stomp dancing? What if that's how we interacted with life? What if we leaned into that kind of flatted fifth she talks about, that la da 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 da, just kind of like lean into that blue note, as sometimes people call it, for the feeling it invokes. And as you do that, it just propels you right into something, a leading tone into something so resolved, yet new, perhaps even a new key. What if we lean into that idea in life? If you play with it, play with life, like you play with music, especially jazz or dancing. What if every single element of us is a note or a brush stroke or dance move that propels us into something else, something greater, into connection with each other in a way that may not be perfectly aesthetically pleasing initially, and yet it just gives us a chance to make something that helps us resolve even more beautifully, cadence even more gracefully. Again, this kind of way of thinking, this worldview, this way of being, is a kind of foreign thing for a group of folks who mostly have been influenced by a European hegemonic culture where everything is mapped out perfectly with no room for improvisation or play. There we were, as if we were the music, she says. Doesn't that immediately let our guard down, if even a little? And I think that this underlying worldview has been far more a part of indigenous cultures and African American cultures and Afro-Cuban cultures and cultures that really do see the world in just a slightly more beautiful way. That's perhaps why those cultures have been so resilient among such tragedy, such trauma, such oppression. If we were to play, all of us, with our lives as music, the resilience in us blossoms, the defensiveness flows away. We start seeing folks who seem to have no power because of the way they've been impacted, and notice how much power they truly have. If we're music, we move outside of legislation and politics. Just like indigenous people for centuries, people have repeatedly tried to control art, and it's never worked. Every time folks have set political boundaries for art, art has ultimately won. I'm thinking specifically of Stalin's Russia, or how rock music was initially deemed offensive or even cursed. It pushed through and became anyway. Like life, music finds a way. Art can't be controlled. Music can't be regulated. If we're art, dance, music, jazz, our bold, courageous power will always forge a liberating path. This is a power that Harjo is sharing with us in the gift of her words. What if we all relished in the shared power of beauty, of play, of dance, of fierce understanding together?
Eliminate negative attitudes during conflict. A panther posed in the cypress tree about to jump is a panther posed in a cypress tree about to jump. The panther is the poem of fire green eyes and a heart charged by the four winds of the four directions. The panther hears everything in the dark, unspoken tears of a few hundred years, storms that will break what has broken his world. A bluebird swaying on a branch a few miles away, he hears the death song of his approaching prey.
I will always love you, sunrise. I belong to the black cat with fire green eyes, there in the cypress tree near the morning star.
I often find myself, well, at least the extra burny bit of my soul, poised in the cypress tree like Harjo's predator panther. Especially when I sense conflict brewing. My spirit's defensive hackles go straight up. Especially when that conflict is brewing over a deeply seated misalignment of core values. I get all charged up like I've been rubbing my feet along the carpet for a whole day. My senses go on overdrive. My already firecracker energy can become a storm pretty quickly. I even have a natural hint of fire green eyes. It doesn't help that I'm a Sagittarius, a fire sign, if that kind of thing offers meaning to you. As I enter conflict, it's easy to think of my so-called opponent as my prey. But my opponent then is ultimately not the other person with whom I'm in dispute. The bluebird that we're the opponent and I, the bluebird that we're about to kill, is the chance for love and beauty to win. I don't witness my opponent as a holy being, a whole being. I don't witness myself as a whole, holy being if I'm just on the prowl. I go into battle, claws out. And that is when music dies. Now I'm speaking from a personal perspective here. I would never presume to tone police somebody who has endured so much suffering at the hands of others with more systemic power, especially when they are a poetic panther with a charged heart. That seems like I'm going to cause more harm than prevent. I know people who are Indigenous Americans that are understandably not prepared, not interested in saving the song. Their song may have died long ago. They're not interested in protecting the bluebird, and I don't critique that at all. All I can do is to add my little bit of unique musical flair to our shared song that helps me move into conflict in a way that might just keep the song going. May we all, to the best of our ability, not experience that bluebird's song as an invitation to strike, but an invitation to sing.
Please join us for our closing hymn, Wayoya, hymn 1020.
Woyaya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know it, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know it. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 Oh yeah And use what you learn to resolve your own conflicts and to mediate others' conflicts. When we made it back home, back over those curved roads that wind through the city of peace, we stopped at the doorway of dusk as it opened to our homelands. We gave thanks for the story, for all parts of the story, because it was by the light of those challenges we knew ourselves. We asked for forgiveness. We laid down our burdens next to each other.